Hello and welcome everybody back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. I am the host again today, Adam Cousins. Andy is out delivering beers to the nation again, and we cannot allow him not to do that because there'll be outcry in the UK. But do not worry, I have been joined by a very special guest and a good friend of mine. He's an AEW guru, which is handy because we're reviewing AEW. Please welcome my guest today, Dave Robinson, a good friend. Dave, how you doing, my man?
Hey, mate. You okay? Good to be here, man.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
No, you're welcome. It was good to see you Friday as well. 11 years, near enough to the day after we last met in a scorching Miami heat.
Yeah, we got quite the contrast in the London rain, but yeah, it was long overdue, bro. Long overdue. It was great to see you.
It was good to see you as well. Right, let's get started with AEW Dynamite. Now, last week, it held from Pittsburgh or Britsburg, depending on if you are a Britt Baker fan or not. Now, the show started with the Four Pillars interview, or the Three Pillars initially. It was Darby Allin, it was Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and Sammy Guevara. And they started by trading respect and insults. It was Jungle Boy, you only got hired because you're a part of the California clique. Darby, you didn't get hired because you're basically a fouled skateboarder. And Sammy Guevara was just an arrogant piece of shit, as he was called by Jungle Boy. MJF come out, basically said that there was going to be a Four Pillars tournament, and there was going to have one of them was going to have a bye. Pulled it out of a hat. It was Darby Allin, and the other two, which Sammy Guevara and Jack Perry, would meet in the main event tonight to go on to face Darby next week. I am going to be totally honest with you. If MJF hadn't had come out, I would have switched off. For me, those three in the ring, two of them can't cut a promo. One of them, Jungle Boy, who I hope doesn't win a title anytime soon, because I feel as if you need to be able to cut a decent promo to be a champion. Darby was okay, and Sammy was probably the best of the bad bunch. But Dave, what did you make of the segment? And what do you also make of MJF's title run so far?
So I try and stay positive about AEW and wrestling in general. But I do have to agree with you. This wasn't the strongest segment. I think we're ultimately working towards a fatal four-way between the Four Pillars. I think that's what the match that everybody wants to see. MJF does what MJF always does. He saved the segment to a degree. Much like yourself, though, I don't want to see Darby talking. I like, the Sting influence up in the rafters, observing, watching, but I don't want to hear too much talking. Same with Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy's terrific in the ring. But on the microphone, he's just not there yet for a main event program. So didn't like this, a bit too much talking. MJF saved it towards the end, and I love his title run. Absolutely love it. I don't think there's any sign of him losing that title anytime soon. I'm looking forward to this match if that's the way they go. But ultimately, I would like a bit of a different build.
Yeah, I totally agree. So that was out the main event. So we know what that is. The first match on the card was the Killer and the Pillar, Jamie Hayter, Britt, and the hometown hero Britt Baker versus Tony Storm and Ruby Soho. Thought the opener was decent. It was good tag to start the show. Crowd was hot. Obviously, Britt Baker, her mum was there. She got into a little bit with Saraya, who joined, obviously, Tony and Ruby. The finish of that match saw the Britt Baker tap out Ruby Soho with lockjaw, and there was a slight injury concern to Jamie Hayter when she hit her elbow on the post. I'm not sure if that was into a segment that we're going to talk about later. It probably does. And after that segment, we moved over to Wardlow introducing Arn Anderson as his manager now, ready for his TNT title match with Will Hobbs coming up later on. So what did you make of the tag opener, and what did you make of this new alliance with Wardlow and Arn Anderson?
I love the tag match. I don't think they can go wrong with Britt Baker in Britsburg. She always gets such an incredible reaction. Her doctor's surgery, her dental surgery, is actually opposite the loading area of the arena. So it's as local can be. I think she did a PhD in and around that area of Pittsburgh as well. So that was great. Love seeing her go over. Ruby, even though in defeat, she kicked out of a couple of finishes and until she tapped to the lockjaw. So I think she was kept pretty strong as well. Great opener. In terms of the Wardlow match, I do like seeing Arn Anderson back on our screens. He puts a great promo. I loved the Glock promo last year. So it'd be interesting to see if that's something that's, carries on moving forward, whether he stays with Wardlow or whether it was just a one-off.
Yeah, I think I'm imagining he'll stay with Wardlow for the time being anyway.
Yeah.
And hopefully he won't have to pull the Glock promo on him like he did Kobe. Yeah, we move on. So the next part was the Elite. So the Elite come out. Basically, they said we've got this promo time. We don't have enough time. We just want to fight with the Blackpool Combat Club, which of course they obliged, as the Blackpool Combat Club always do. The Elite took a bit of a beat down. Danielson had a screwdriver, was going to use it on Omega. Don Callis had already tried to run out with a chair, then kind of shit himself and run back. And brought out, and I hate to say this guy's name because it is so bad, brought out Takeshita, who ran down and basically helped clean house and sided himself with the the Elite, sorry, not the Blackpool Combat Club, the Elite, which going forward is probably going to have some sort of gimmick match at Double or Nothing. Imagine maybe Blood and Guts or Anarchy in the arena or something like that. What did you make of that? And what do you think about Takeshita joining ahead of Hangman Page, or am I thinking too much into the future with Page?
Yeah, so I've got a lot of thoughts on that. Firstly, going into this segment, I was glad that there was a lot more action from the opening segment. We discussed a bit too much talking. It was a bit convoluted towards the end of the Wardlow match as well, with Christian Cage and Luchasaurus appearing after the title changed hands, after Will Hobbs dropped the TNT title. So I was glad to see some physicality, a good brawl, and adding Takeshita into the mix is a great move, but I ultimately don't see Don Callis as a face long-term at all. He's a dastardly heel. He's fantastic in that role. So it'd be interesting to me whether ultimately Takeshita joins the BCC. I think we're working towards 5-on-5, whether that's Blood and Guts, whether that's an Anarchy in the Arena type match. So at the minute, we'd have the Bucks, Kenny and Hangman. At the minute, they're positioning Takeshita as the fifth man, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him with the BCC. So then it's who joins Kenny and the Bucks, who joins the Elite to make up their five. Could we be seeing, a Golden Lover perhaps in Ibushi? It's potential. I do like speculating. I do like fantasy booking. It'll be interesting to see what they do with that, and ultimately where Don Callis takes Takeshita.
Yeah, do you think Don Callis and Takeshita will? Could Don Callis also join the BCC as replacement for Regal?
I think so. I think that's a great fit for him. Obviously, there's a family connection, not just a friendship connection with Kenny. So there's a good story to be told there. So I'm not quite sure how they get there, but all of the options available, whether Takeshita stays with the Elite or goes with the BCC, I like both elements. I think he's a great, very talented wrestler. I think he's got a real huge upside, and I'm glad that he's in this program. We can see a bit more of him.
Yeah, exactly. And you edging towards Blood and Guts over Anarchy just because of John Moxley bleeds everywhere he goes?
Yeah. So it's the absolute perfect match for Mox. The only reason I'm a little bit reluctant to commit to it too much is the women, and obviously they're working a similar type of angle in terms of the outcasts going against the homegrowns. Yeah. So there's a couple of multi-person matches that might be in the mix. So an Anarchy in the Arena or a Blood and Guts, but I'd probably hedge towards the Blood and Guts because of Moxley's love for the extreme.
And the screwdriver as well.
Yeah. But not. I don't recall seeing a screwdriver in the past in wrestling. I don't know. I can't remember them implementing a Phillips or a flat blade.
I think they did. I'm sure they did WWE before.
Is it something with the eye, or was that?
I think Rollins done something with. No, he done it on the stairs to Mysterio. I think he took his eye out, so to say. On the
bit of a strange one, but as obviously Hangman selling the injuries, selling the attack from the week before, so we didn't see him this week. But I like this; it's moving the story along, and I'm looking forward to the ultimate blow off.
Yeah, and I think as we was discussing Friday, it's great to have different elements to it, which is what's made a bit of long-term booking in the WWE so good. Because when you've got
Yeah,
to a point where you start to think, "Oh, here we go," they move into another gear or they change it up a little bit, and it looks as if
yeah,
they're going that way with this.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
So that's the BCC and the Elite taking care of it. We've already touched on this just now. The next match was Wardlow and Will Hobbs for the TNT Championship. Again, another good match. Two solid guys. I do like. I have this thing, the Bronson Reed and Bobby Lashley match in WWE. I know you don't watch that, but they were, two big bits of meat just clobbing the crap out of each other. My cup of tea. So this match
Yeah,
really was that way. Had a bit of interference. Arn Anderson and everyone come in. Ultimately, Powerbomb Symphony from Wardlow, and he wins the title again. And as you mentioned, Luchasaurus and Christian Cage come on the stage at the end to stare down Wardlow. My issue, not with the match, there was nothing wrong with the match. I just find it very hard to take a title seriously that's changed 17 times in 3 years.
yeah,
I know WWE were very safe. They've had a lot, but recently they've made their titles a bit more prestigious and people have had long-winded reigns. So first of all, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the TNT title as a whole? And are we now going to get to see another sort of big man feud, or is Christian Cage going to try and worm his way into this?
yeah. So I did enjoy the match. What I love about AEW is the variety. You get a lot of different styles, and I think the two big meaty men slapping meat, as Big E puts it, is it was a great match. A bit short, and hot potato in the title. Yeah, it certainly doesn't help establish it for me. Um, Wardlow now is onto his third reign.
Yeah.
Hobbs's reign was about 42 days, which it didn't seem as long as it was because he
No.
didn't really have any defenses on Dynamite.
Nope.
He did have a number on Rampage and the house show. So I didn't really think that the title did anything for Hobbs. I don't think the association with QTV does much for Hobbs either. I much prefer the Book of Hobbs and the way they were going with that.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see. I don't think the title run or dropping the title has done much for him. What Wardlow moves on to now, whether it's Luchasaurus or Christian, I'm interested in both of those matches. I know Christian said recently that he was in AEW to win titles.
Yep.
So it wouldn't surprise me if it's Christian Cage that is next for Wardlow.
Yeah, I think that'll be a decent enough encounter. I think obviously Luchasaurus will probably eventually get an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's whether that comes first or that comes after Christian Cage. And as you say, Christian Cage wants to come in and win titles. And obviously, we thought his career was over. And I for one, am a big Christian Cage fan.
Huge.
Loved him with Edge. So we will see where that goes. Hopefully, in this week, because I can announce what's been announced this week already for Dynamite shortly. We then moved to a match that has caused a lot of a stir on social media. This match was Commander versus Jay White. Now, it made the rounds on social media for a fairly humorous botch. I don't like to say botch because Chris Jericho said he wants to punch anyone in the mouth that says botch, but nevertheless, Commander goes to do a flip off the ropes. He's got Jay White by the hand. He jumps on top of the rope. He tries to do a flip, ends up moonsault in the top turnbuckle, and then gets right back up, bounces another 7 times. Jay White's still holding onto his hand, and he then hits an awkward-looking Hurricane Rana off the top. That being said, the actual match was decent after that, I thought. And he got through. Jay White wins. Sean Spears is in the crowd, comes out, and then starts getting beaten up, and then Ricky Starks makes the save. So I'm a little bit sort of like, okay, so what role was Commander doing in this from the initial perspective, if they're going with Ricky Starks and Sean Spears? I didn't even know Sean Spears was back because I hadn't watched Rampage, so I have to openly admit to that. So, but what are your thoughts on the match? What are your thoughts on Jay White's initial run here in AEW, and how do you see this one panning out going forward?
So, as you say, there was a bit of an unfortunate moment in the match, but overall, it was an excellent match. It really showcased both some of Commander's skills and Jay White's. Now, I know there's been a lot of furore online about the positioning of Jay White, but I don't think that you could have brought him in and feuded him with MJF. Jay White ultimately is a heel.
Yeah.
He's got the association with Juice Robinson, and he'll be doing some Bullet Club related activity, whether that's building up or whether it will just stay as the two of them. So I don't think you could put him in with MJF. It wouldn't have made sense. I like the fact that we're working towards a Ricky Starks match. I think that is a potential, show stealer, Double or Nothing. And Sean Spears' involvement. He was back on Rampage. He went against Jack Perry.
Yes, Jack Perry beat him, didn't he?
That's it. So perhaps as a tag match, coming up, Sean Spears and Commander against Juice and Switchblade. Again, I like Jay White going over. I like that we saw a bit more of him. And I think over the coming weeks and months, he'll establish himself and he will ultimately be a main eventer. We'll see him at the top of the card. But that picture at the minute is very crowded. So
yeah,
and it doesn't make sense again to have a match against Commander in some respects. But I don't mind that occasionally. I don't need a story for every match. I like to tune in Dynamite or Rampage and see great action, and they gave us a great match.
Do you think that the potential split that's coming up with now it's pretty much confirmed that the Punk is due back in June, at least the 17th of June, maybe, to going back to return to AEW, and they're looking at splitting the brands because there's certain people that won't work with Punk and certain people that will work with Punk. Do you think that will help a Jay White establish himself as a main eventer, assuming they're going to have more than one champion again? I don't know how they're going to do with that.
Yeah, I think so. And that, these wrestlers that we've been introduced to, perhaps unless you're a hardcore fan, you don't know too much perhaps about the likes of Jay White and Commander and Vikingo. Certainly not for an American audience. I think we're getting that exposure now, and ultimately there'll be bigger players when whether it's a soft brand split or a hard brand split, where we're going to see certain wrestlers on Collision and certain on Dynamite. What happens to Rampage then? I'm not sure. But yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on there, mate.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. I mean, obviously, by the sounds of it, you won't have the Elite on the same show as Punk. That's probably won't have Hangman Adam Page on the same show as Punk. Jericho seems to be the first opponent for Punk. I mean, other than FTR, who do you see aligning with Collision? I mean, would we see maybe a Danielson over there as well?
Yeah, I suppose that depends how he plays out with the BCC. Obviously, Punk had comments about Moxley as well as Jericho, so he certainly doesn't play well with others. But he's got his friends in the likes of FTR. I know a lot of the younger wrestlers have spoke highly about Punk. Jade Cargill was somebody that she used to sound off, and ask Punk to watch her matches and ask for advice. So maybe there's a bit of a mix. Maybe there's a I'm not sure. It all comes down to, as well, at some point they're going to be under the same roof at the same arena for the premium live events or pay-per-views.
Yeah.
So there's going to have to be some kind of resolution. There's going to have to be some kind of working relationship between Punk and the Bucks, even if they are on ultimately different shows.
Yeah. Yeah, do you think that we will eventually get to see that blow off? I know it's more. It's not necessarily a blow off because it wasn't really a storyline; it was a shoot. But do you think eventually they will sit down? Because I know from what I've heard is that Punk hasn't contacted them because basically legal reasons has prohibited him from having that conversation. So is it something that a conversation may happen when Punk is back and they can at least work on being professional in the ring so they can kind of have that match that everybody wants to see?
I certainly hope so. Dax Harwood was on his own podcast, and I believe, I don't know if it was on his podcast he was asked for his dream match for Wembley, and he wanted it to be himself and Cash alongside Punk to take on Kenny and the Bucks, and who wouldn't want to see that match? And there's in the history of wrestling, whether it's Bret Hart and Vince, or Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, people in the past they didn't get on. They've had big kind of issues privately, not the best of friends, and they've managed to do business, make a lot of money, sell a lot of tickets, sell a lot of pay-per-views off the back of it. So as businessmen, as professionals, I feel all parties would be certainly interested in that. As you said, if Punk has been advised not to get in touch with them, that stops him from apologizing or for attempting to build any bridges. So we're hearing they're going to have that meeting with Tony Khan, and maybe Chris Jericho's involved with that. And I, for one, as an AEW fan, as a wrestling fan, as somebody who lives in the UK, and I want to see the best show at Wembley, I hope they can all get on the same page, even if they, don't necessarily appear on the same show every week.
Yeah, I think as even Bret Hart said when he was saying about Shawn Michaels, he was an absolute prick, but in the ring, we was professional, we done business.
Yeah.
Same with Matt Hardy and Edge when all that stuff kicked off.
There's a lot of examples, isn't there, mate? Where personal life it spilled out over into storylines, but ultimately it was good for business. So hopefully those guys can work it out.
Yep. And speaking of Y2J, now nice moves us kindly onto the next part of we're halfway through Dynamite at this point, and Adam Cole and Chris Jericho come out and start their conversation. Adam Cole has kind of said, I had all this respect for you. Even my catchphrase was because of you. And Chris Jericho says, "There's one thing I have got nothing for you, which is respect." And they then trade insults. They start getting into it. Garcia comes out. And they start beating on Punk. Then Britt Baker comes out and tries to protect Adam Cole. She slaps Jericho and then appeared from the back with the Outcasts that are underneath the ring. They beat Britt Baker up. Garcia and Jericho somewhat handcuff Cole to the ring apron or the ring ropes. And then they bring a kendo stick in the ring. He's saying to Chris Jericho, "Come on, hit me, Chris, hit me." He passes it to Saraya, who then turns, smacks Britt Baker with the kendo stick. Great segment, in my opinion. I think it does well to hype up that match between the match that's going to come up eventually, which is Cole and Jericho. Nice, safe person, I think, to put in the ring with Adam Cole as well, a big veteran like Jericho, who won't necessarily be doing all these flips and stuff that could potentially harm Adam Cole. We know the issues that he's had with concussions, and I think putting him in with Jericho is a safe bet. My only criticism, and it's not even a criticism, is the JAS have Tay Conte and Anna JAS, apparently. Anyway, that's how when I left it, that's how I assumed it. And I have no problem with the Outcast coming in. But do you think, as it was a JAS segment, that perhaps those two should have come in as well, albeit Tay Conte does come out with Sammy for the main event? But what was your views in the segment, and what was your views on that bit?
Yeah, I think one of the big criticisms of AEW online over the years has been the lack of women's spots and segments. I think they've really done a better job of that in recent months.
Yeah,
there's been a lot more exposure for the women's division,
yeah.
But maybe too much exposure for the Outcasts. I'm not sure. I totally agree with you. We saw Tay Conte with Sammy. Even if Tay Conte has a kendo stick to attack Britt Baker with the interference of Danny Garcia and Jericho, that would have made a little bit more sense to me. Anna Jay was on Rampage, and she seems to be splitting off now for a program with.
She's working with what's the one from the House of Black? Julia Hart.
Julia Hart, yeah. So she attacked Julia Hart after that, but they referred to as Anna Jay, not Anna JAS. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's happened there. I'm not sure if she's left, whether she's still involved, or I like the segment. I didn't love it. I think it's moved things on nicely.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could have perhaps used some of the family members at ringside. I know Britt Baker and Adam Cole had family members.
Yeah,
in front
I think
row,
they did at the start at the tag.
Yes, yes,
didn't they? They didn't end up. Yeah, they could have maybe that would have been a better segment to use them on.
Yeah, because Britt Baker, we've seen her go through a lot, in terms of her matches with Thunder Rosa. We know she can take a beating as well as giving one out. So It was a bit dramatic. It was a little bit silly in some respects, but the ultimate match here is Chris Jericho versus Adam Cole.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that. That'll be a great match. So hopefully they carry on building on it in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think so. I think they will. We'll get into what's been booked for this week. So there's part of it already booked. Just going touching on Anna Jay briefly, do you think it's just not worked with her as a heel? She just hasn't. I mean, she was kind of struggling a little bit to get over even as a face, a little bit. And she had a good run, and I think she had a couple of matches with Cargill that were okay. But maybe this just hasn't worked.
Yeah, she's not a natural talker, much like Jungle Boy. Yeah. It seems a little bit forced when she's cutting her promos. It seems very kind of script is probably the wrong word, but it seems like somebody's in her here, or it's not quite working for her as a heel or a face. She's a great wrestler. We've seen her have some fantastic matches. She put Jade Cargill probably through one of her best matches as well. It's just a little bit. I'm unsure whether she is part of the group or not.
No, yeah, me too. We'll have to see how that pans out, as you say, over the coming weeks. Now, you have an Acclaimed top on there, and that moves us nicely to the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass or Billy Gunn, whatever you want to call him, versus the Jericho Appreciation Society. That was Matt Menard and a couple of the other guys. I can't remember. Forgive me, I can't remember the names of them all.
Angelo Parker, isn't it?
Oh, and Jake Hager.
Jake Hager. Big Jake,
yes,
yeah.
Big Jakey, yes. The match, I think, was okay for what it was. I think that kind of ended the feud. The Acclaim picked up the win. Ever since they dropped the titles to the Guns, I'm just not sure what's going on with the Acclaimed. And everybody loves the Acclaimed, as they say. I preferred them as heels. I thought the raps were more edgier, or a bit more, I laughed a lot more during those. I still have a little chuckle now when he does it, but I just think they've gone down a little bit since the faces. And what's next for both of these teams?
Well, I think dropping the titles, and they couldn't have really worked a match with FTR. So the Guns were a little bit, for me, transitional champions, ultimately to feature in a match with FTR. But Acclaim did kind of lose out because it did seem a little bit early for them to lose the titles. Billy Gunn is looking fantastic. He seems to get younger and younger every time you see him and every time he wrestles. So maybe they go into a trios. Maybe they go after the trios titles. House of Black are holding them at the minute. They're not.
Have they been?
Yeah, again, Julia Hart was on Rampage. Didn't see the other guys. Not sure. I'd like to see more House of Black, and maybe when we do get the brand split, they'll feature more heavily on one of the shows.
Yeah, they need. I mean, there's some talented guys. I mean, I think the last time we saw him, wasn't it Buddy versus Orange Cassidy?
Yeah, that was a great match. I actually thought that Buddy may go over in that match.
Yeah.
They're guaranteed whichever members of the House of Black, whether they're in singles, tag, or trios, they match of the night contenders.
Yeah.
In terms of the Acclaimed and the JAS, really entertaining segment. Acclaimed every Wednesday, AEW. I love seeing them. I think they're still incredibly popular with the fans, still incredibly, successful when it comes to the selling the merch. So heel or face, I just want to see the Acclaimed.
Yeah, we ever say everybody loves the Acclaimed. Nicely into main event time. So I thought, I questioned the guys of on the mic skills of Jungle Boy. And a little bit Sammy, but he just comes across as the arrogant shit that he is, which is fine. The match itself, I thought, was absolutely fantastic. There was a really sick DDT, I think, that Sammy done on Jungle Boy. Yeah. The end result, MJF comes out, hits Jungle Boy with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, and he gets counted out. Starts saying there's going to be no four-way. So kind of alluding to pushing towards Double or Nothing. The four-way at Double or Nothing, shall we say. I thought it was great. The only thing is, did it really need Jungle Boy to lose? Could they have done like a no contest? Just because if we were going towards a fatal four-way, would it be better having them all going strong into that fatal four-way? I don't know what's going to happen this week, but it feels like Jungle Boy's already lost, albeit not cleanly. But anyway, your thoughts on the match, your thoughts on the finish, and where they're going to go with it.
Yeah, incredible match. I don't think it's not very often you get a bad match on Dynamite. You might get an odd botch or, if something not go perfectly, but that's fine. You accept that as fans.
Yeah.
The match itself was fantastic. I loved when Jungle Boy did the Canadian Destroyer.
Yes.
Off the middle rope.
Off the middle rope, yes.
Yeah, I thought that was excellent. I would much prefer the carrying on what they were doing with the three title contenders. They were all on 2 wins each. I would have loved to see them step up and face perhaps stiffer competition over the next few weeks and continue that rivalry. With MJF doing something else, maybe keep an eye on that. Knowing that they're vying to be the number 1 contender.
Yeah.
I think AEW sometimes when they lead into a pay-per-view, they can start the build too early and then they have to try and pad it out. And other times it's a week before, and there's been 4 matches announced, and then there's 4 or 5 more in the last week. So I think they're still a relatively young company, and they're finding that happy medium.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would rather not see Jack Perry lose. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, there's no guarantee that it will be a fatal 4-way.
No, that's right. Do you think that they suffer a bit because they don't do as many pay-per-views, because you have to kind of elongate a lot of these storylines out?
Possibly, yeah. And I know they have the Dynamite specials,
which are good.
They're always good shows. But they seem to build to them a week or 2 weeks in advance. It's never a long build, so maybe they should utilize that a little bit more. Give us as fans watching week in, week out, like when those specials are coming up, maybe a bit more notice so we can build towards them. So some of these matches, they're going to be on a bigger stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think they should do more or add more pay-per-views. It's up to them. So
they got Forbidden Door now, haven't they, as well? So
are we going to see Sasha Banks at Forbidden Door or Mercedes Moran at Forbidden Door?
I would like to think so.
Against who? Putting you on the spot here, Dave, I know. But...
Yeah. So, I mean, Jade Cargill's had a very long run as TBS champion. She's been the only TBS champion.
Which is good in a way, because there's a bit of credibility to it.
It has. It's more credibility to the title. Jade is constantly improving. I'm a huge Jade Cargill fan. I think the WWE would have loved to have got their hands on Jade Cargill.
She is Vince McMahon's wet dream.
Absolutely. Yes, she, I'm sure she'd be a star wherever she goes. She's just got it, and she's, improved her skills in the ring vastly as well. If not Mercedes, who would beat Jade? So I personally would like to see that match.
She'd have to sign with AEW though, wouldn't she, if she's going to take the title off of her?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, but they seem to have that kind of relationship with Japan.
Yeah, I mean, the IWGP title has been defended on there a few times, hasn't it? And
yeah, maybe Mercedes takes the title back to Japan, and then Jade ultimately reclaims it at some point. But,
yeah, I mean, do they go with a Britt Baker, or do they get Paige? Because don't forget, she was the one that cost Paige technically a career for 8 years.
Well, yeah, there's an embarrassment of riches, really, and they could play off that. They could certainly use that real life situation. Unfortunate, it was an accident.
Yep.
But Saraya against Mercedes Moné is a big match for any company and any pay-per-view.
It is. Right, we'll move on to what's been announced this week. So this may go into alluding. So we've obviously got the main event, which is the finals of the 4 pillars, which is Guevara and Allen. Orange Cassidy takes on Bandido for the international championship. So Orange Cassidy's had a week off, and he's now back. And Bandido, not a lot of, as you mentioned before, you don't always need a story to promote a match. It should be a decent enough match as it is. The Butcher and the Blade will go against Kenny Omega and Takeshita in a tag match.
Will they coexist?
Will they coexist? This is it. Jade Cargill defends her TBS championship against Taya Valkyrie this week. So I don't think enough has been done to get the title off of Jade now. I think that would be a mistake. An interesting match that I'm actually really looking forward to, because they're very good workers, and it's going to be interesting. This is Dax Harwood versus Jeff Jarrett.
Okay.
I'm intrigued by that. I mean, Jarrett's always been good in the ring. Dax is a phenomenal one. He's a phenomenal wrestler. It doesn't matter if you put him in a tag or a single. He's had some amazing matches. So it's intrigued me, that one, just to see. Obviously, that bit with Briscoe going on in the background, and Jeff and the team there. We will hear from Wardlow and Arn Anderson, so that gives you an idea, as we're going to be having both of them. Probably going to be an interruption from Luchasaurus and Jericho Christian. We're going to hear from Adam Cole again. It's in Florida, so it's Adam Cole was going to come have a chat about what happened last week. And we're also going to hear again from Tony Khan. Whatever could this be? What is your prediction for that? Is it going to be a Saturday show confirmed?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I mean, there's been so much speculation out there, and there's only so long they can keep things under wraps and quiet. So they've stopped short of saying Tony Khan, huge announcement, because I know he was getting a little bit of backlash for announcing his announcements. So we'll hear from him. Yeah, I would imagine that would be something to do with Collision.
Or
Yeah.
is it this rumor that you've heard today that you wanted to explain, that you've heard a rumor that perhaps they're going to come over to England a little earlier than expected?
Yeah, a possible scoop. I've only heard it from one source, pretty good source, that they will be putting on a show at Craven Cottage, Fulham's stadium, Fulham, the football club that he also owns. There's talk that it's going to be a house show, so one of the house rules show scattered throughout the calendar this year. Every month or two, there's a show. There's one in July. There hasn't been one announced for August yet. And as I say, I've heard that they may be doing a show at Craven Cottage prior to All In.
Well, it will make sense if they're over here to capitalise as much as possible. I suppose the only thing Craven, I mean, that's without being horrible, that's a shithole of a stadium.
The capacity is about 25, 26,000.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's a lot for a house show. But this is the first time AEW have been over, and if Wembley sells out, or the sales go really well, there's that appetite to go. People that perhaps haven't got a ticket for Wembley or in the area anyway that weekend.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons they didn't use for All In was because of the logistical nightmare that it is to get to Fulham.
Yeah.
I know I've been to, for my sins, I've been to Chelsea's ground a few times, and it's not far away. And it's a bit of a logistical nightmare. But AEW, so let's touch on All In very briefly and quickly before I round up. So we're getting closer to ticket on sale day. So that's next week. Obviously, if you've got priority, or if you signed up for the exclusive tickets like myself and you have already done, we should be able to get them a bit early. What is your prediction? Now, I've seen a picture of the seating, and they've blacked out a lot of it. Now, is this because of these are the tickets that won't be released on those days, or are they taking a bit of a risk here? They're blacking out sort of like there's a big corner section where the stage is, and they blacked out the entire seating. Are they sort of predicting that they're not going to do much sales there, or?
I don't know. Obviously, there are the production reasons for blacking out certain areas, and having the area where the hard camera goes. I think if they limit the capacity to begin with, it can be a sellout. So if there's 60,000 tickets on sale and they sell 60,000, they can claim a sellout. They can still open up other sections potentially as it goes, and sell those and keep kind of building on that momentum. So that's something potentially that they may be doing. I predict it will sell out regardless of how many tickets are available. Where I think the maximum would be about 80,000.
Yeah,
and
give or take, once you take into consideration production, where things are going to go, hard camera section and such and such. Probably better shout.
I think they'll sell it out. I think this is the first time AEW have been to the UK. I think London is a relatively easy place to get to for the rest of Europe, French, Spanish, German fans. I think there'll be some hardcore fans coming from America that have never been to London, that have never been to Wembley. So I do think they'll do really well. I think there'll still be tickets available, the week of the show, as there always is, whether that's resale or whether that's, people that have sent tickets back, or, I think people will be able to get tickets up to the day, but I think it will be a sellout. I think all the tickets will be spoken for.
Yeah, look, and I think the way I see it is, I'm always a diehard WWE guy, but I want to see AEW do well. I want to see him come here and smash it out of the park, because I enjoy wrestling. Although I'm a diehard WWE guy, I'm not a one-man band, so to speak. I enjoy all types of wrestling. I'll go and I'll discuss that in a minute, because I've got to do a sponsor shout out and such what. But I hope AEW really knock it out of the park. I'd love to see him sell out. I've predicted a sort of 60 to 70,000 ticket sales, but look, even that would be a tremendous. You look at it,
huge.
Huge. I mean, if you look at their all-time attendance record is 20,000 for I want to say Arthur Ashe Stadium. I think
it was Arthur Ashe, I believe. Yeah.
So if they hit 60, I mean, and you're not going to see the empty seats anyway, because they're going to be up there. So who cares? And who cares if they don't sell it? It's they've got balls to do this.
Huge,
they've never come over here before. All right, Sadiq, his dad, not Sadiq Khan, that's the bloody mayor of London. Tony Khan's father owns 40% of Wembley, so probably got a decent on the rental side of things. They probably managed to get a better deal done there, which is great. But they've got balls to do it. In my opinion, good luck to them. I hope they smash it. To be honest,
I mean the advertising as well has already ramped up. They were advertised, FA Cup on the boards. There's so many people watch football in this country, as you know.
Yeah.
I mean, how many Laps fans from the Attitude Era and people over the years that used to watch wrestling that still know the likes of Chris Jericho and some of the other big names? Goldberg, potentially. I'm hearing that rumor that Goldberg's looking for a retirement match. And, AEW have got the funds to accommodate it. But how do you feel about that?
Me? I don't think they need it. I think they'll do Sting's retirement match. But could it be Sting Goldberg? They do double retirement.
Oh, I don't know. I think Sting wants to retire, but he doesn't want to die. So I don't know. I wouldn't want to see Sting up there taking a jackhammer.
Mate, especially the one. Did you see the one he gave the Undertaker at Saudi Arabia?
Oh yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap up the show now. I need to do some sponsors announcements. I need to do these guest announcements, and this is what takes a lot of time because we're so busy. Let's do the sponsor announcements first. Ignite Wrestling Pro. They've got a show Sunday, the bitter end in Boreham Wood. I'm going to be there, so come on, guys, get your tickets. You're going to see me. It's not the wrestling, just come and see me. Say hello to me. I'm going to be there. That game leads nicely into the show that I'm co-producing, so I know you're coming. Thank you for that. You're bringing your good friend, which is Buckle Up on July the 23rd. Us and Ignite are coming together for the first time. There's going to be a big announcement of that show, which will continue our relationship going forward, which you don't want to miss. So when the tickets go on sale, I want to say early May, just get them because you're going to miss a treat. Jurassic Pro Wrestling, they have got Primal Instincts on the 4th of June. I'm going to be there again, doing my miles for these guys. Again, get your tickets. They've got a kind of a nice limited Fatal Clawway, as they're dinosaurs, of course, match for the Lost World Championship. Nick Payne will be defending it in a Fatal 4-Way. The Saucy Geezer. Will he retain or won't he? We will find out. He's still got a bit of beef with me, actually, from our interview, if you see it on YouTube. Obviously, there's Pro Wrestling Carnage. They've got a show, Coronation of the King. Funnily enough, on the bank holiday weekend that we coronate the great Prince Charles. Our guys, Beers and Beatdowns, will be there defending their titles. They've been together over a year. We are going to be merchandising with them. So they've just sent the artwork off to get the new merchandise from Hitting the Turnbuckle and Beers and Beatdowns. I look forward to receiving my free copy, guys, free shirt for that in the coming weeks and months. Too. Oh, I've got another one. We'll be free then because Andy's going to want one. We're also sponsoring Corey McRae, who's a British independent wrestler. He was off in Austria, I believe, over the last few weeks. He's going to be at the bitter end. I don't think he's going to be at Primal Instincts, but he will be at Buckle Up. The main event for that, I believe, will be announced, could well be announced at the bitter end. So that should be an interesting one. Have I forgotten anybody? Matt Cast, the Windmill Darts tournament is going on the same weekend as Pro Wrestling Carnage. Matt, all the best, mate. Carry on doing what you do and get that PDC tour card next year. Those are the sponsors. Now it comes to our guest announcements, and I do have some breaking news to share with you in a bit. I've got another podcast at 11 o'clock tonight with the lovely Fiona Loughran from Inside the Ropes, and we will be joined by NWA star Sarah Ranallo to talk all things, again, NWA, fresh off my interview with Jeremiah Plunkett on Friday, which was an absolute blast. On Wednesday, I interview, and I'm going to be a big-time fanboy for this. On Wednesday, I interview a former professional darts player and wrestling diehard fan, Paul Nicholson. Now, for those of you that don't know who Paul Nicholson is, Google on YouTube, or not Google, but put it into YouTube, Paul Nicholson and CM Punk, and see what he did to beat Phil Taylor, who's the greatest darts player to ever live, in a world match play. I can't wait to talk to him Wednesday. On Thursday, it's Rusev Day for me and Andy, as we meet the one and only, and I've got to get his surname right, Matt Raywald, Aiden English for the WWE fans, part of the Vaudevillains. Current Impact Wrestling commentator will be joining us on Thursday. The following Thursday, Oh, in between that, we're going to be doing something with Ignite, but in between Matt and the following and the guest on May 4th, which is ex-WWE UK Tag Team Champion Flash Morgan Webster. And so in between that, we'll be doing something with Ignite again on the podcast. Flash Morgan Webster on the 4th. On the 11th of May, we have a chat with the professor of professional wrestling, Mr. Bobby Fish. Will be joining us for a podcast. Looking forward to that. We've got 3 more, so apologies, guys. The week after, the 18th of May, a guy that announced that he was coming on the podcast himself before we even knew. We get extreme and we discuss all things ECW with Justin Credible on the 18th of May. The breaking, I'm not going to do the breaking news. I'm going to leave that one to the end. On the 15th of June, it was announced yesterday, I believe, we've got the lovely Angelina Love from former Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion and current NWA wrestler will be joining us on the 15th of June. Finally, the breaking news, joining us on the 23rd of May, former WWE star, former Impact Wrestling champion, I believe is still currently working on Ring of Honor and is the head of the Control Your Narrative group. EC3 will be joining the guys, me and Andy, on the 23rd of May. And breathe. That is what we've got coming up. There may be 1 or 2 more announcements this week. I don't know for certain yet. But Dave, it has been an absolute blast chatting all things AEW with you today. We will certainly get you back on soon for another one. But thank you for taking the time today. I appreciate it, buddy.
No problems. Thanks for having me, mate. Loved it.
Brilliant, guys. It's been great to have you on. This will be uploaded to YouTube soon. This will be on Spotify, Apple. Hit us at HTT Buckle. Go on YouTube at the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. We've set up a new Instagram, Hitting the Turnbuckle. Go and subscribe on that as well. And we will see you later on tonight for another show. Until then, guys, goodbye.